It's like time moves so slow and so fast all at once. And there's so little, but so much happening all at once. How do we regain that time? Hey friends, welcome to my channel. I'm AmandaMuse, and today I'm going to share with you a pretty interesting topic I think a lot of us are sinking our teeth into right now, the concept of balancing personal goals while being a mother, especially in this second chapter of motherhood. My kids are 9 and 11. They're so much more independent. I have so much more freedom. There's a lot to talk about, so we're going to get into that. If you're a regular viewer, I know I have not been making a lot of long form video, but it's summer, okay? As much as these kids are independent, there's still this summer camp mom vibe that's going on that I keep it's like this push and pull dance. And aside from just summer and doing all the things we do in the summer, I had a puppy that was spayed. She's sitting in my lap. This puppy cannot be away from me. I should just get a baby sling and carry her around, you know? Oh, and then my husband has Lyme disease. So I will say, if you are interested in that personal life update, I'm going to be sharing one soon, either before or after this video comes out. So subscribe, stick around. Okay, let's get into today's video. Why is this an important topic? I think a lot of people, when we go into motherhood, there is oftentimes this biological calling to become a mother. I certainly felt it. And you could not have told me anything that would have swayed me from my decision to become a mother. And I'm so glad I did. In hindsight, though, there's some things that we just don't consider in those new early days of motherhood that are going to come up as the years go on. Those first few years of motherhood are all encompassing. It is literally this tiny baby who is, I want to say an extension of you, but let's be honest, for the first little bit, they are one with you for sure. And no matter how you choose to parent, breastfeeding, bottle feeding, co-sleeping, not co-sleeping, you are in it. You know what I mean? It is full on, especially if you're taking time off of work, depending if you have access to maternity leave. All of these things are going to contribute to you being one-on-one with a human being that is all your responsibility. So what happens there is that there's less and less time for you, less time for you to think about that next chapter, that next phase. I mean, we are in the day-to-day here in new mom land. You're not really thinking about perhaps, not everyone, but you might not be considering your long-term goals here. And I suppose long-term goals outside of your role as a mom. One of the reasons it's important to pursue goals as a mother is that it can actually increase your sense of fulfillment in your role as a parent. When you have something that is just for you and a form of independence separate from your role as the full-on mom and all the things that come under that umbrella. When I think back on the last few years, a couple of goals that have been really important to me. One, my fitness. So I have had, peaks and valleys with how I, handle my fitness, how I handle movement. And what I've realized most recently is that it is a direct tie into my mental health. And so I realized that this is a really important thing for me to prioritize. So that's been a goal lately, is how do I move more in a realistic way that is sustainable, that is good for me, where I'm not injuring my body, and I'm sort of living my best version of myself because I'm getting that goal accomplished. So that's been a goal. Another goal is to be as social as I can within reason. Having a partner that is a traveling person, he's a pilot, so typically when he's working, he's away a lot, and I do a lot of this solo parenting, which means I have to rely on other people to help me if I want to go out, whether it's family members who can watch the kids or paying a babysitter. So, how can I be more social? How can I be creative in that way and make time for those social moments, because it really does fill my cup. And then, of course, pursuing my career goals and how do I make time to work properly and get the appropriate amount of work done when I am the full-on parent. So one thing that happens when you start setting goals is it can trigger a new behavior. So let's come back to my fitness goal for a second. So one of the things I aim is 30 minutes of movement a day. 7 days a week. What does that look like? A walk is still movement, my friend. And by sort of creating this goal for myself, I make it a priority to do it, and I end up doing it more. So it's triggering this healthier lifestyle. And I don't know if this still rings true, but remember they used to say if you do something for 3 weeks regularly, it consistently becomes a habit. Maintaining this 30-minute movement thing a day has really helped me sort of figure out how to work it into my schedule, and then I get it done, and then I feel good. It also guides your focus, right? So if you have something that you're working towards, you're going to take these baby steps to get to that goal and to make it happen, right? So I like to use my watch to track my movement. So it's like, although I forgot to put my watch on, you can see my watch tan. So I get to like check that off when I click outdoor walk and make that happen. And then I also make it fun. So I add in, well, I really enjoy listening to podcasts, so I'll listen to a podcast as I go for a walk. And I get like all of these nice things happening that are just for me. And then ultimately it sustains your momentum, right? So you're pursuing this goal, you're incorporating these new habits. It becomes habitual now, literally, and now you're moving towards this goal you've set for yourself. And ultimately, what happens when you start doing things that make you happy? Say it with me, friends, you become a little happier, and that's awesome, right? With feeling a little happier, maybe your cup feels a little bit like it's overflowing, and that overflow of joy will trickle into other areas of your life ultimately. So I suppose it comes into like prioritizing what matters to you. That's going to look different for everybody, right? So whatever it is that you're wanting to pursue, even if it's silly, it's something that you want. So therefore it makes it not silly, right? Honing in on what matters and then staying committed is going to help you see that through. Because coming back to those early days of motherhood where it's so all consuming, it's like, it's so hard to articulate all of the ways in which we don't prioritize ourselves, right? We don't have time to even shower and do our hair necessarily when we want, or move our bodies when we want. You know, we are on another person's time schedule. And if you have a dynamic in your home where your partner travels or they work a lot, you have like that much more or less time to yourself. It's like time moves so slow and so fast all at once. And there's so little, but so much happening all at once. How do we regain that time, right? So I almost like flip everything to the opposite. So if you don't have a lot of time for yourself, carve out just a little, just like a little bit of time. Just do one little thing that's different perhaps. And then it's picking back up that pace. So where we have this slow time where everything feels like it's going slow, but yet so fast, the pace starts to pick back up and you are kind of going along for the ride. Make sure you carve out time for yourself. Setting aside time as you regain that freedom. What does that mean? Is it movement? Is it more sleep? Like all of these things are going to contribute to a really healthy and happy person who can like confidently go after what they want in this life beyond their role as a mother. Because I've always said that. More than just a mom, guys. I got a lot more things that I'm interested in aside from my kids. They are awesome. You can feel two things simultaneously. Love being a mother and also love pursuing your passions. Some of that stuff can seem a bit wooey and it's like, all right, well, how are we actually going to do this? Like, what can we do practically to make this happen in our day-to-day life when I have literally just explained how little time we can often have for ourselves? One of the things we can definitely agree on is time management. Now, like I said, your dynamic in your house is going to be very different than the neighbors, right? And so what I have found to work really well is introducing one small thing at a time, because too much at once, it's just too overwhelming. You are not taking this massive ship that's going full steam this way and you're going to haul ass the other way. Like that's just not going to work. But one tiny little movement, all of a sudden you're going in the direction that you want, right? So one little thing at a time. Maybe you take the approach of like one thing and do it for 3 weeks and then introduce something else for 3 weeks. Make things habitual, right? I also think it's so important to be realistic. I know for myself, whenever I'm setting priorities, for example, my home, I love it to be tidy. I just love a nice, tidy, not cluttered space. It makes my mind feel really relaxed and I just feel so much more free. Well, friends, it is summer and there are way too many people in my house, and with my husband home, it is like, there's just not enough of me to keep up this house, even with my husband and I doing the best that we can, helping each other out. I mean, P.S. he is sick, recovering from Lyme disease, so I mean, my expectations are a little bit lower, or at least I try to make sure they're lower. But yeah, it's like I have to reset my expectation, and the reality is, it's summer, there's a lot of people home, the house is not gonna look like I want it to look right now, and I just sort of need to figure that out and reset my expectations. Otherwise, I'm gonna be a pretty damn miserable person. That is the truth. It can't all get done at the same time. I can't make time for myself, do a fun activity with the kids, make dinner, do all the things, walk the dogs, and keep my house immaculate. No, I'm not a superhero. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I do struggle with this. However, I feel like in my motherhood journey, I've been forced into finding how to be confident and ask for help and realize it is not a negative thing for myself. I had babies in a place where I didn't have family, so I had to rely on friends and my community there. I then settled in Canada in a community where I have no family, and the closest family is like an hour plus away. I guess I just like to make things hard for myself, apparently. But then I found, okay, so in order for me to have a date night, for example, I'm going to have someone watch the kids. So I found a babysitter, and I figured out a way to incorporate a babysitter into the budget for a while. And then my babysitter grew up and she's off living her life. And so, okay, we're back to a place where like the kids aren't old enough to stay alone. Maybe I can have a family member jump in and help. Or maybe there's a neighbor, I can watch her kids and she can watch my kids. Like, you got to get creative, but it's really like realizing that if we don't ask for help, and we're drowning and we need certain things to feel more fulfilled as a person to ultimately achieve our personal goals, like, who's to blame then if we're not willing to look for a solution, you know? And that is something I often struggle with because I'm like, well, I can do everything. No, Amanda, you cannot. Sometimes it's taking the pressure off of meal preparation. You know, I'm sure you've used like those ready to order or ready to cook meals. I've tried that. It's not really my jam. I find for me what works is just taking the pressure off. Like, not every meal has to be perfection. I don't need to be in the kitchen for 2 hours every time making dinner, you know? It can be simple. There can be simple moments when you have a full day, when you've got work things to do and maybe you have a social engagement and maybe that night it's a frozen pizza and everyone will be fine, you know? So ask for help. Resetting those expectations as well is so important. And I think what's important is, if you think about what we've talked about in this video, so much of it is how can we just carve out that time for ourselves? And, you know, I love that saying about mothers. Like, if you want something done well, ask a mother, because she knows how to prioritize her time, how to make shit happen in a short amount of time, because often we're doing that. You think about back when your babies were small, when your kids were small and they were napping. How much crap I got done in a 40-minute nap is unheard of, you know? And that remains true to this day. I can hone in on what's important and get shit done. And I know you can too. So if we can carve out time like that, to manage the laundry of the house, to get the meal preps, to plan the family vacations and pack everybody's shit, we can also make time for ourselves and set the damn time aside to pursue something that we want. You know, I know for myself, I have a little dream and I'm working on it behind the scenes. And sometimes dreams, one of the ways that they become realized is that they're not shared with anybody. You keep it to yourself, you just work at it bit by bit, bit by bit, and watch what happens. So before I wrap up this video, I really wanted to share 3 women that are so powerful, that are mothers and are also killing it in the achieving personal goals department. And I know that there are many. So definitely share yours in the comments, but let me just share 3 that I am just like in awe of, who inspire me constantly. The first is Rihanna. I mean, it goes without saying. Rihanna, that girl popped out into the scene when are we similar ages? I think she's a little younger than me, but she is just a powerhouse, a dynamo, someone who has sort of grown up in the public eye and now is a mom to almost 2 children, right? She's pregnant. And the part that I wanted to share is that she's had success recently with Fenty, which I believe is not just a makeup line, but it's also like she has a lingerie collection. And her most recent photo shoot, if I find a photo, I'm going to pop it up here. She is pregnant in sexy lingerie, and she is living and she is working and she is pursuing her dreams and her passions. And I love to see it, because not so long ago, women were forced to conceal their pregnancies. Like, I love celebrity pop culture. If you think like in the 50s, in the 60s, women basically had to choose between a career or motherhood. They also had to hide their bellies. And Rihanna is out there in a thong and a little bra top with her belly all looking fabulous. Like, here for it. Love to see it. Give me more. The second one is Jacinda Ardern. I think I got that name right. But how we all know her is New Zealand's former Prime Minister. Believe she was one of the youngest women to become a leader in that capacity. Not only that, I think she's only like one of 2. I could be wrong on that statistic, but one of 2 world leaders to give birth during her role as a prime minister. Like, that's fascinating. Pretty sure she breastfed. There was that viral video like while she was working, and her husband was a stay-at-home father. Like, so many things happening there that I just find it so incredible that she was able to pursue her passions, her political career, while having children. She didn't have to stop. Like, it's amazing. I love to see that. That type of representation is incredible because, you know, here I am in this new chapter of life looking towards what my next chapter is going to look like in terms of a professional career. And there is this feeling of like, where have I been for the last few years? I took time off as a mom. That's somehow seen as a negative on my career path. But why? Why? Right? Who else was going to take care of them? And I know a lot of us can feel that way. And it's so inspiring to see women just doing the damn thing, all while being amazing mothers. And this final one I wanted to share is actually a Canadian influencer. Her name is Serene Fox. She is an Indigenous storyteller. You have likely seen her in all sorts of powerful ads. There have been makeup ads, fashion ads, and I followed her for a few years. And one of the things I find so fascinating, so inspiring, is that she is, you know, unafraid, unapologetic. She is so, but yet so vulnerable and tender in the way that she shares stories about her Indigenous culture and what she is leaning into is important right now. And she's also had 2 children in the last few years. And it's not like it's slowed it down. Like, as a mother, especially with children who are 9 and 11, I find it so fascinating to see how people are able to balance it all. It's not really it all, but you know what I mean. And it's like, I know what's going on behind the scenes to a certain degree. I've been there, done that. I've been in the weeds too. I remember those early days. But to see her continue to, you know, pursue her passions, to share her message, she's not going anywhere. She's just multitasking, and it is totally inspiring. I really hope you enjoyed this conversation today. I just think it's so fascinating to lean into this next season. You know, how do we prepare for this all of a sudden newfound freedom as our kids get a little older? They still need us, but we have more time for ourselves. It's honestly a really delicious season. So if you're here with me, hey girl, I see you. And if you're in those early days of motherhood, I mean, it's coming, right? All of the seasons have been so interesting so far. And for women who are in chapters ahead of me, I am just looking forward to being able to be where you are. Life is a gift, isn't it? All these different chapters. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you with my next video. Bye, guys.